Boarding School Murder Mystery, Part 8. Previously, in Boarding School Murder Mystery, a weekend of coffee runs, candy diplomacy, and budding friendships takes a sharp turn when Gwen unwittingly becomes the last known person to see social studies teacher Mr. Grunfeld alive. After a tense summons to the headmistress's office, Gwen discovers that the adults of Whisperen Academy have their own secrets, and none of them want her asking questions. With rumors swirling, prefects whispering, and the lake holding more than reflections, Gwen realizes she stumbled into a mystery much bigger than a grumpy teacher in a trench coat. As dust settles over Whisperen, new friends circle close, suspicion creeps in, and the line between witness and suspect gets uncomfortably thin. For fans of atmospheric thrillers, this is where routine weekends twist into real danger. Authority figures cast long shadows, and Gwen learns she can't trust the adults to tell the truth. Chapter 8. Where are the Mounties when you need them? By Glory Fink. By lunchtime, the fog finally gave up. It didn't blow away dramatically or anything, no cinematic sweep of mist peeling off the lake. It just loosened, thinned, the way a headache fades but still leaves your skull tender. One moment the courtyard was a gray bowl, and the next I could actually see the tree line again, sharp and dark against the water. Everyone noticed. Half the cafeteria pushed toward the windows, trays abandoned. I followed, mostly because it felt like we were all sharing the same breath for the first time in days. The air felt brighter, lighter, like the school finally remembered how to exist in daylight. Then someone near the glass said, Is that a boat? And everything went still again. A little wooden skiff bobbed out in the middle of the lake, faint and distant, but unmistakable, like it'd been waiting there the whole time, only now deciding it's okay to be seen. A murmur rolled through the other students, sharp, rising, uneasy. Is anyone in it? Who is that? Wasn't Mr. Grunfeld missing? No way, that can't be. I pressed my palm to the window. The glass was cold, and so was the sick feeling crawling up my throat. I didn't know Mr. Grunfeld well, hardly at all. But there's something about seeing a boat drifting alone on a lake that shouldn't contain any mysteries. It felt wrong, like the fog kept a secret and only now remembered to tell us. Within minutes, the local police arrived. 2 officers in plain blue uniforms, no scarlet jackets, no dramatic horses. Nothing like the tourist posters. Just regular old British Columbia police with quiet voices and clipped steps, squinting out at the water as if trying to solve a math problem they didn't study for. Students were crowding the back steps to watch them ease a motorboat into the lake. Teachers tried to herd everyone away, but it was half-hearted. They were watching too. Everyone was watching. The rowboat reached the skiff. One officer leaned over, examining something inside. Even from this distance, the mood of the whole campus shifted, tightened. Every kid around me seemed to inhale at the same time. The skiff was hooked and slowly towed in. Someone whispered, "This isn't good." And for once, nobody disagreed. When the officers finally pulled the skiff onto shore, we were herded back inside, not because anyone actually thought we'd concentrate on class, but because the teachers suddenly remembered they're supposed to look like they're maintaining order. Our English teacher tried to continue a lecture on comma placements, but even she kept glancing at the window. Half the class did. Even kids who were pretending not to care were now staring at their notebooks like they were trying to write their way out of thinking. I sat in the back between 2 first years, Katie and Moonshine. I don't know them well, but right now proximity equals friendship. Moonshine kept tapping her pencil in uneven bursts, and Katie chewed her lip until it turned pale. Finally, Moonshine blurted out, "There's no way he went fishing." Katie nodded hard. He hated water, like he hated it. This was news to me. He did? They both turned toward me, grateful for a listener who hadn't already heard this 1,000 times. "Last year," Katie whispered, "he refused to supervise the kayaking trip. Said he'd rather eat gravel than wobble around in a canoe." Moonshine snorted, though it's not a funny sound. "He got seasick watching the ferry from the dock. Remember that field trip?" Oh, God, yes, Katie winced at the memory. He turned green just looking at the waves. I tried to picture that. Mr. Grunfeld, who always seemed so crisp and composed, undone by a boat bobbing in the distance. It didn't fit. None of this fit. So, I said slowly, he didn't like the lake? Didn't like it, didn't trust it, didn't want to be within 5 feet of it. Take your pick. Moonshine rolled her eyes. Night fishing? Please. The next few days stretched out like wet wool, heavy, shapeless, impossible to pull forward. Nothing really happened, and at the same time, everything felt like it was happening just out of sight. Teachers tried to keep us busy. They piled on worksheets, reading, silent study blocks, busy work disguised as structure. But it was obvious they were avoiding something. They exchanged tight whispers in hallways, shut office doors the moment students got too close, and stopped mid-sentence if anyone mentioned Mr. Grunfeld. During meals, conversations rose and fell in jittery ways. Have they checked the trails? My roommate says her cousin's friend is a search and rescue volunteer. What if he just left, like walked off? He wouldn't. And then the worst sentence of all, no one knows anything. I wasn't sure which was worse, the rumors or the silence. The skiff sat tied up near the pier. I tried not to look at it when we walked past on our way to the dining hall, but I always ended up glancing anyway. The inside was empty now, scrubbed clean, too clean, and that somehow felt more ominous. By the 4th morning, Whisperen Lake was still and glassy. The fog didn't return. The sky hung low with clouds that looked like cold slate. That's when the bigger vehicles arrived. We heard them before we saw them. The crunch of tires, heavy and deliberate, followed by the thump of equipment being unloaded. When I reached the quad, a cluster of students were already at the edge watching. It wasn't the local police this time. A pair of marked white trucks and a towing trailer carrying a larger aluminum boat rolled up near the lake access. The officers climbed out and had provincial patches on their jackets. British Columbia Provincial Police. Their gear was bulkier. Their pace was more businesslike. They conferred with the headmistress in clipped, quiet tones. A ripple of whispers ran through the student body. They're dragging the lake. Does that mean they wouldn't be here if it wasn't bad? Oh no. Oh no. I exhaled slowly, steadying myself. Watching from behind the group didn't make any of this feel less surreal. The officers prepped ropes, winches, grapples. Students murmured questions they were too afraid to say loudly. Our math teacher wrangled us back inside, but no one was interested in algebraic equations. Not today. From the upstairs classroom window, I watched as the provincial police set out onto the water. Their boat cut a clean line across the lake, leaving a ripple that looked violently out of place on such a still surface. Katie sat beside me, chewing her thumbnail. Moonshine stared stiffly out the window, not blinking. Do you think they'll find him? I asked quietly. Moonshine answered without turning. I think that's why they're here. The room felt colder after she said it. Katie leaned closer, lowering her voice to a hush. That's not even the weird part. Moonshine nodded. Wait until you hear about the alcohol thing. I blinked. What alcohol thing? Exactly. Katie gestured vaguely toward the lake. They said there was an almost empty whiskey bottle in the skiff. But he didn't drink, Moonshine said flatly, like she's stating a scientific fact. He told us multiple times. He tried beer as a teenager and thought it was swamp water disguised as a beverage. His words. Katie whispered, during health class, he said alcohol was a distraction from duty, like he was giving a speech. I sat back, let their words click into place. A man terrified of water. A man who didn't drink. A boat drifting alone on a lake he avoided. A bottle of whiskey he wouldn't have touched. It's like a jigsaw puzzle where every piece looks like it belongs to a different box. But, Moonshine added reluctantly, some students say maybe he just didn't admit he drank. Adults do that. They talk big, then do the opposite. Katie shrugged. People are complicated. Sure they are. But this felt less complicated and more wrong? I stayed near the back of the student cluster trying to see past taller bodies. Gertrude stood beside me, arms crossed tight over her chest. "He wouldn't have gone out there," she muttered. "Not in a million years." Isabel and Sima were directly ahead of us, whispering too softly for me to catch more than fragments. "Not like him. Logic doesn't make sense. He avoided the dock." I looked at the lake. The water was so still it looked solid, like you could walk across it if you were foolish enough to try. The main officer, a short man with a clipboard and the no-nonsense energy of someone who had seen too many sad things, stepped forward. "We'll begin sweeping the central basin," he said to Bullock. "This may take several hours." Bullock nodded. "Whatever you need, of course." As the officers pushed off in their boat, the dragging rake trailing behind them like a set of metal claws, a hush fell over everyone. Even the wind quieted down. The boat moved slowly, deliberately. The rake disappeared beneath the surface, and I felt a knot wind tight in my stomach. There's something surreal about watching grown adults comb a lake for a missing teacher. Something that felt wrong in a way I can't quite name yet. Every time the officers hauled up the rake to check it, the crowd tensed. Every time it came up empty, the crowd sighed. After the third pass, the boat changed direction to sweep a deeper section. I suddenly realized I was gripping Gertrude's sleeve without noticing. I let it go quickly. She didn't comment. Hours stretched. Shadows lengthened. Students started drifting away in waves, some bored, some rattled, some quietly crying. I stayed. I don't even know Mr. Grunfeld. Not really. But something about this made my skin crawl, and I can't explain it in a way that doesn't sound dramatic. Just as the sun dipped low, turning the lake copper, the officers pulled the rake up again. This time, they reacted differently. Stiff, alert, calling to each other with clipped voices. A murmur rippled through the remaining crowd. "They found something," someone whispered. "No, they found him," another breathed. My heart gave one hard thump. The officers went quickly, with practiced solemnity. Couldn't see everything from the distance, just shapes and tense movements. Someone covered something with a tarp. Someone radioed for additional personnel. Bullock turned pale and sank onto a bench as a nearby teacher steadied her. Around me, the students fell silent and stayed silent. It was the kind of silence the school should never have to learn. The gossip eventually burned itself out, not because anyone got tired, but because lights out is mandatory, and the dorm parents do their usual patrol with the precision of sleepy prison wardens. The hallway went dim, doors clicked shut, a hush settled over the dorm like someone pressed a giant pillow over the building. I laid in bed staring at the faint moonlight outline of the ceiling. My brain wouldn't shut up. Every detail from today kept replaying, rearranging itself like puzzle pieces, trying to form a picture I didn't recognize. The drifting skiff, the officers dragging the lake, the tarp, the first years insisting he hated water, the whiskey bottle he wouldn't have touched. I squeezed my eyes shut and tried to will myself to sleep, but the more I pushed the thoughts away, the sharper they got. Something about this is all wrong. Not storybook wrong, just real life wrong. The kind of wrong adults get very quiet about. Across the room, Beta whispered in the dark, "You still awake?" "Yeah," Cindy whispered back. "You think it was an accident?" A long breath curled out of Sloane. "I don't know." Silence settled again, but it wasn't peaceful. It was expectant, like the room was waiting for someone to say something important. But what could that important thing be yet? Eventually, the whispers faded, and the soft breathing of sleeping girls filled the room. I stayed awake long after. The next morning. Announcements are always delivered during morning assembly, usually by whichever teacher drew the shortest straw that week. Today, it was Mrs. Drover, who stood at the front of the assembly hall with clasped hands and the expression of someone who's memorized a statement and does not want to say it. Students quieted down quickly. Even the ones still gossiping about the lake dragging stopped mid-sentence. She cleared her throat. As many of you are aware, the British Columbia Provincial Police recovered the body of Mr. Grunfeld yesterday evening. They have concluded that his death was the result of accidental drowning. A ripple moved through the room. Not shock exactly, but discomfort, doubt, a sort of collective, "Really?" "The authorities believe," she continued, "that he was out fishing at night, likely under the influence of alcohol, and fell from the skiff." Katie sat in the pew in front of me and huffed. Mrs. Drover pressed on. "There will be no further investigation. No autopsy, no questions, just case closed. And that's that. Teachers don't linger after giving bad news. They evaporate before students can start asking the wrong questions." Ms. Drover hurried off the stage, and the pianist immediately started playing the last song to send us to our first classes. But conversations bubbled up immediately, harsher, more frantic now. "He didn't drink. He hated water. How could they say that? Do they think we're stupid?" I absorbed it quietly, the pit in my stomach leadening. If adults tell you something scary and final with a calm voice, they expect you to accept it. But today, no one did. Not the returning students, not the new students, and definitely not me. Ever your worrywart, Gwen. Coming soon in Chapter 9, Werewolves, Wendigos, Whatever, Tales of the Alberta Highway. The official story says Mr. Grunfeld drowned. The unofficial story? Well, nobody can agree on anything except that none of it makes sense, especially the part where he was apparently drunk. In Chapter 9, Gwen tries to untangle the impossible. If Mr. Grumpy never touched alcohol, why did the skiff reek of whiskey? And why does every adult suddenly want to have a talk about addiction? Rain and Mrs. Rahia Hamadi step in to explain alcoholism. Gently, awkwardly, and with the kind of honesty Gwen wasn't ready for. But the real turning point comes when Rain finally tells Gwen a story from the Alberta wilderness. A stretch of road where birds don't fly. A creature people whisper about but never name. And a life Rain has tried very hard to forget. Whisperen Lake has secrets, but Rain's story? It has monsters. Thanks for tagging along with Gwen in Chapter 8. When the fog finally lifts over Whisperen Lake, everyone expects sunlight, not a mysterious wooden skiff drifting alone in open water. By lunchtime, half the school is pressed against the cafeteria windows, whispering about missing teacher Mr. Grunfeld and the boat he would never have set foot in. Local police arrive first, then the provincial officers with bigger trucks, bigger boats, and the kind of equipment that makes everyone's stomach drop. Rumors churn, teachers pretend nothing is wrong. Students watch every move from classroom windows. And the more Gwen learns, the water-phobic teacher, the whiskey bottle he'd never drink, the skiff bobbing where he'd never go, the more the pieces refuse to fit. Something is wrong at Whisperen Lake, and whatever the fog was hiding, it's starting to surface. Catch Gwen's Chaos and Sadie Cohen Bounty Hunter too, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and beyond. If you've ever tried to keep your life together with nothing but caffeine, sarcasm, and a prayer, please tap the heart button. Leave a comment. Gwen will absolutely overthink it while trying to fall asleep, and you can even toss a coin in the snack fund. Haunted Loonies welcome on Ko-fi, Venmo, and Cash App. Your support keeps indie storytelling caffeinated, chaotic, and just haunted enough. Stay tuned for Chapter 9, Werewolves, Wendigos, Whatever, Tales of the Alberta Highway, at Glorious Magazine, gloryfink.substack.com. Stay connected with the Coffee Bunny Crafters Cafe. Subscribe for cozy chaos, creative magic, and behind-the-scenes updates at coffeebunny.substack.com. And you can find me, Glory Fink, as Glory Writes the Blues on social media, on Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye!